Patch notes. This is the biggest patch I've ever seen for basically any game. There is a lot of words in this. So I only am going to go over the things that I think are pertinent. Um, there's a lot of stuff in here that might be something you're interested in. So if I don't cover it, you can skip through the patch notes yourself and try to find the information that you're looking for. But what I'm going to cover are the new items and aspects, and then general gameplay changes that I think are important, and class and ability changes that I think are important for the balance of Season 1. So, new items. We get 6 new unique items and 7 new aspects. So let's go over these really quick. So there's a new Uber Unique. It's a staff. When you use it, you gain a random shrine effect for 10 to 20 seconds after killing an elite enemy, and it can occur once every 30 seconds. This isn't that exciting to me, but maybe it's cool. I don't know. Barbarian gets Azure Wrath, which is a cool item from Diablo 2. And on Lucky Hit, your core skills have a 20% chance to freeze enemies for 3 seconds and do some amount of cold damage to them. I'm not sure what benefit freezing does for barbarians, but could be an interesting way of crowd controlling things if you have good Lucky Hit. Druid Fleshrender. Debilitating Roar and Blood Howl deal some amount of damage to nearby poisoned enemies. Seems interesting. I don't know if I would use this, but probably a build out there for it. Necromancer, Lidless Wall. This is yet another item from D2. Unlucky Hit, when you have a Bone Storm, hitting an enemy outside of that Bone Storm has a chance to create another Bone Storm on them. And then each of your active sacrifice bonuses increases the chance of getting the Bone Storm and increases the amount you can have. Not sure if Bone Storm is good. I haven't played much Necromancer. But if you're a Bone Storm enjoyer, this item might be interesting to you. Eaglehorn, another D2 item for Rogue. Penetrating Shot has a 30 to 80% chance to fire an arrow that bounces off walls and scenery. Hitting enemies from behind a penetrating shot will make them vulnerable for 3 seconds. This is kind of interesting. It's interesting that, you can have that aspect that separates the arrow when it hits stuff, and then now it can bounce, so there's a lot of chances to strike things. So it's kind of cool. Sorcerer gets the Oculus, also from D2. You get the teleport enchantment for free, and when you evade, you'd get teleported to a random location. Seems bad, but kind of a meme item. Alright, the aspects. The general ones, these are for everybody. Audacity. When there are at least 5 close enemies, you stun them. This can occur once every 20 seconds. I don't know. If you're using stun as a mechanic in your build, this could be good. Craven, mobility aspect. You gain 20 to 40% increased movement speed when moving away from slowed or chilled enemies. It seems pretty good. There's a lot of builds that slow things, like anything with earth skills on Druid slows everything. I know Rogue uses those boots that leave behind a chilling trail. So this could be powerful. I'm not sure exactly how much use this will see, but could be good. Barb gets Ancestral Charge. When using charge, you call forth 4 Ancients who also charge. Not sure if charge is good. Druid gets Subterranean. Poison Creepers active also casts Landslide in a circle around you, and Earth skills deal increased damage to poison enemies. This seems pretty good. Gonna need to test it out, but it seems pretty strong. Necromancer gets something for Blood Lance. Blood Lance is trash. Rogue gets every 3rd cast of Puncture is poison imbued with more than normal potency. Seems good. I mean, if you have an open slot and you're not sure what to use, this could be good if you're using Puncture, just for some extra bonus damage. Sork gets a thing for Firewall, and Firewall is terrible. Tons of bug fixes, so we're going to skip through that. Gameplay. For Barb, they fixed the thing where Hoda does increased damage around the quakes. It was doing like crazy damage before, so now that's dead. Druid, something similar with Shred. It was doing crazy damage, but now that's fixed. Some other general fixes here. Nothing that interesting. There was apparently a chest that could give infinite loot. I didn't know about that, which I did, but they fixed that. Some changes for Helltide and Field of Hatred, more bug fixes, tons of bug fixes. Okay, so gameplay updates. So now they're increasing some renown rewards. They've changed some some general things here where the loot quality for silent chests is better. Whispers don't give you citadel dust, yada yada. They changed some of the benefits for the different world tiers and how monsters scale in world tiers. And a pretty big change, this is a huge change, especially for Season 1, is they changed how experience works. So it used to be that any monster 3 or more levels above you would give you a bonus 25% experience. That's not the case anymore. If you kill a monster that's 3 levels ahead of you now, it will give you 4.5% bonus experience. You get 1.5% bonus per level that it's above you up to 10 levels. So the maximum you can get is a bonus 15% if the monster is 10 levels ahead of you. This is going to have huge implications for speedruns and for season start strats. So we'll have to see how that goes, but that is a huge change. They also changed boosting. So it used to be that when a level 1 character would go into some, super high level dungeon in World Tier 4, and they'd have their friend go clear it out, they would be getting the experience of the level 100 monster times 1.25. But now, the maximum applies, so you're only going to get experience as though the monsters were level 11 times 1.15. So boosting your friends is going to be way slower. You're going to have to find out different ways of doing that. It used to take maybe like 30 minutes to get to level 50 from level 1, including unlocking World Tier 3 and 4, like 30 to 45 minutes. But this is going to be a massive change to that. Making the Helltide good chest more expensive and the monsters stronger. So there's that. All right, this is the good stuff here. Classes. I'm only going to go over a couple of things in each one that I think are kind of important. So they buffed basically like a bunch of random garbage stuff, like double swing now has more vulnerable duration and yada yada. A bunch of stuff that nobody's really using. But the things that I wanted to point out are these big changes they have here. So hamstring, the thing that applies slow when you bleed stuff, and on Barb you bleed stuff always because you use the two-handed sword technique. Now it only slows healthy enemies. So if you hit an enemy down below 80% life, you can no longer slow it on Barb. That is a massive change. It's going to make Barbs significantly worse. That kind of surprises me that they did that, but, follows the pattern of nerfing Barb always. Along with them changing the Hoda, how Hoda works and a couple other things, Barb is going to be a little bit harder to play, but they have increased and buffed a lot of things, so maybe it'll level out and builds will just have to adjust and change into something else. But I'm not sure that if you want to race for first place to 100, I don't know the Barb is going to be an option anymore. Druid, big change here that I'm pretty sad about as a Druid main. They made it so Prime Grizzly Rage now only gets unstoppable for 6 seconds instead of the full duration. So you can no longer be like permanent unstoppable on Druid. Druid players are going to have to figure out how to get unstoppable in the in-between time. You'll probably have to start running Earthen Bulwark on your skill bar so that you can get out of crowd control. I am pretty sad about this. I know it was kind of busted that it could be always unstoppable, but, it was fun. So that's sad. And then just some other general changes. A lot of stuff is getting buffed, but another key thing here is the Masochistic Spirit Boon now requires a lucky hit chance of 75. So you're going to get less procs of Masochistic, which is sad. Necromancer is getting a bunch of stuff, bunch of junk slightly improved and changed. Overall, I think that Necro is still going to be really tough because it still doesn't have any mobility. As far as I can remember reading through this. So they did not fix the mobility issues, but they made a bunch of their skills like slightly more viable. So probably still wouldn't recommend a Necromancer unless you just really love that playstyle. Rogue, I'm really surprised, but it didn't seem to me like they really nerfed that much on Rogue. They buffed a bunch of random stuff that nobody uses. They buffed a bunch more stuff that nobody really uses. And then that was basically it. I mean, they only decreased like one thing, or they made a passive require lucky hit. I don't remember where it was, but yeah. So siphoning strikes now also require lucky hit chance. So rogue is overall probably gonna be similar. Very strong, very fast. Sorc, they did give it a lot of um, damage reduction on stuff. Well, not give it, but they increased a lot of like damage reduction from um, destructive incinerate gives more damage reduction. Destructive charge bolts gives more damage reduction. What else was there? There was like the enchantments. These cooldowns are different. Just some like general junk, but I still wouldn't play Sorc unless you just really love Sorc. They didn't really fix the key issues, in my opinion, which are that its damage is just bad in the end game, and it really relies on applying vulnerable. But you'll see later on down here that they made some other general changes that I think will have people shifting up how they build things. Generally speaking, they nerfed disobedience, which is what everyone is using to get more armor. Now it only stacks up to 60, and that reduces the maximum bonus armor from 50% to 30 at maximum. And then some other changes here. They changed Butcher's Cleaver and whatever, like cool. Drop rate adjustments, this is important. They increased bonus to drop ancestral and sacred items in nightmare dungeons. Basically, all these changes are like do nightmare dungeons. So just do nightmare dungeons as soon as you can, as much as you can. Because now you have a 50% chance to drop a second legendary, and you get 3 rare items on completion. And you have an increased chance to drop extra equipment from elite monsters in nightmare dungeons. So there's just like a lot of benefit to doing nightmare dungeons. You get a lot more items, and a lot more chances at those items that you're looking for specifically. They made monsters scaling tougher, so the more players you have, the stronger the monsters are, but even more. There's no longer a limit to how many materials you can refine into higher materials once. That is great. It used to be 20. So like I ran out of silver ore and I had like 40 trillion of the iron ore or whatever, and to get the silver ore I could only do 20 at a time, and it took forever to get as much as I needed. So this is great. They're changing I guess they're adding affixes that can appear on different item types and for different classes. So now pants can get control impaired duration reduction. Barrier generation can be for all classes. Lucky hit chance while you have a barrier is now for all classes, but it's reduced on helm and amulet and offhand. They added mastery skill damage for Sorc, so that's good. So instead of just core skill damage, you can also get mastery skill damage. So that should help with some damage scaling, but I don't know if it's enough to make Sorc good. Then all res is available on shields. So they made it so that strength, dex, intelligence, willpower is all nerfed on weapons. It's not as much, like it used to be 50% stronger on weapons. Now it's only 25%. Now here's some big changes. Cooldown reduction reduced by 30% across the board. Imbuement skill cooldown reduction reduced by 30% across the board. Trap skill cooldown reduction reduced by 30% across the board. That's pretty brutal. Critical strike damage reduced. Lightning critical strike damage reduced. Critical strike with bone, earth, imbued, werewolf all reduced. Vulnerable damage reduced by 40%. So across the board, those really good modifiers on items that you've been using, where it's like I need to get the highest crit strike damage I possibly can and the highest vulnerable damage I can. And then if I'm playing werewolf, I also want werewolf crit strike or crit damage. All of those are nerfed, and vulnerable especially. Critical strike damage inherent on swords reduced by 50. Vulnerable damage inherent on crossbows reduced by 65. So they are really taking a hard stance on crit and vulnerable. They are making those modifiers significantly worse. Damage to crowd controlled enemies reduced by 30%, and damage to frozen enemies increased by 20%. So on Druid, you slow everything. Now you don't do as much damage with that modifier. On Sorc, you freeze everything and you do even more damage. So that's good, but still, I don't know how good Sorc will be. And then they made a ton of change. They increased basically every damage type. So like if you get Cutthroat skill damage increased by whatever percent on an item, it'll be 25% stronger, or 35 or 20, depending on what thing it is. All of these damage things are increased. Then all of the armor, so armor, total armor reduced is nerfed. And then all the different armor and damage reductions are all reduced. So basically, they're making your damage output lower and the damage you take higher across the board. Some other changes. There's a couple other, I think, positive changes here. They had them in the bug section, which was weird, but there was an issue. Where was it? And generally, they made a cap so that items will drop. Maybe they moved it. It looks like they've edited this since I last looked at it. It's a gameplay. But sacred items will always drop at maximum level 60. Here it is. Items and aspects. The level requirement for sacred items will now cap at 60. And the level requirement for ancestral items will cap at 80. So you can farm gear for an alt or for a friend that has a lower level character, and you can give it to them and they can use it. Right now, like I have like a level 93 druid. If I find an item and I'm like, oh, this will be sweet on a necromancer, there's no way that I can give that to my necromancer because, you know, he has to level up to 93 to be able to use it. And by that point, he's going to find his own good stuff. But now, if I find a sacred item and I'm like, oh, this item's cool, I can give it to my necro, and once he hits 60, he can use it. So this is a really good change. So, key takeaways here. Your damage in general will be lower. The damage that you take will be higher. There's a few good changes, few cool new items and aspects. And Barb got pretty heavily nerfed. Hoda's no longer really a thing. And the bleed from hamstring is also, or the slow from hamstring is also basically not ruined, but strongly affected. And then Druid is no longer perma unstoppable. And everything else just got kind of tweaked a little bit here and there to try to help them be more usable. So let me know your thoughts. There's plenty more stuff to go over in this. I know this video is already long and I barely skimmed the surface of kind of some of the more important stuff. But I'm excited to jump in and start testing some of these things, and I'll let you know what I find, what things I'm gonna do. I was planning on doing probably a shred druid or a whirlwind barb for season start. I might have to reconsider that. I'm gonna do some testing today and kind of determine what I want to do for season 1. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. I know there's a lot of content creators out there making videos like this, so I really appreciate you spending your time with me.